We'll introduce the Adaptive Directory. The Adaptive Directory is the source of truth for the Adaptive Identity Services Platform cloud users' accounts. The Adaptive Service initially comes with one full system administrator account in the Adaptive Directory to help you set up the Identity Service Platform. The initial admin login name is assigned based on the email domain used to request your Adaptive Identity Service Platform account. It takes just a few minutes to set up the portal, and then that email account receives a welcome email from CyberArk Adaptive. Notice that the email includes instructions with the initial tenant URL for your portal, the initial admin login name, and a temporary password to access the admin portal. The admin portal is where you will manage your identity service as well as complete any desired customization. For identity management best practice, every person with access to your platform should always log in with their own identity. We want to verify every user rather than share this initial admin account. You may want to do some customization before adding more Adaptive Directory users. We'll show you how to customize your portal URL and login suffix in the Customizing Your Adaptive Tenant course. Once you've finished that customization, one of the first things you'll want to do is create one or more Adaptive Directory cloud users and place them in a role with full system admin permissions to prepare for using the Adaptive Connector. Most customers create at least one admin account that is not part of any federated or connected directory so that they can use it for the Adaptive Connector. The Adaptive Connector enables secure communication between your internal Active Directory or LDAP network and Adaptive Identity Services so that those users don't have to be copied into the cloud. We'll discuss the Adaptive Connector in more detail in another course. For now, let's go to Core Services, Users, in a demo admin portal that already includes users from a variety of sources. The source of truth for these users' identities may reside in other locations, like Active Directory, LDAP, or a federated cloud directory. But this users table allows you to view and manage everyone with access to your portal from one place. Let's look at an example. We'll use the Sets panel to filter our users table to only Active Directory users. Note that in order to see connected users, you will need to have installed the Adaptive Connector. And because we support just-in-time provisioning for added security, you'll only see external directory users information appear on this table after they have logged into the Adaptive portal the first time. Remember that we don't copy users from Active Directory into the cloud. Now let's look at our Adaptive Directory users. These are our cloud user accounts, whose source of truth resides only in the Adaptive Identity Platform. You might add contractors or other temporary workers to the Adaptive Directory if you don't want to include them in a connected directory. We'll show you how to add those cloud users individually or in bulk later in this course. The Adaptive Directory is the foundation for taking advantage of the full power of the Adaptive Identity Service Platform. A policy is a group of instructions that control how the Adaptive Identity Services operate. For example, you may have policies for allowing users to add applications to the portal, policies defining authentication rules, policies for user security and permissions, policies for endpoint access, and policies for third-party integration. One policy does not have to control every aspect of the identity service for the users it governs. In fact, it's best practice not to mix and match topics within one policy. A policy can be applied to either all users and devices or by role. You can control different aspects of the identity service for users through their membership in one or more roles, and by applying one or more policies to each role. Let's navigate to Core Services, Policies, to view the Policies table. You can see that we've already created a few policies. Policies can potentially include many different details, but it's best practice to target each policy for a specific purpose. The default policy is the basic experience that all users have coming to your identity services platform. Let's open it to take a look. On the Policy Settings page, we see some basic information, including the name and description of the policy. And we can see in this case that this policy applies to all users and devices. Let's take a look at the summary to see what's included with this policy. This policy includes some endpoint policy settings, some authentication policy settings for adaptive services, and some user security policies. Let's open authentication policies to the adaptive services page to see how the default experience is set up. These are the settings that control how our users sign into the user portal. We'll discuss these in more detail in the Configuring Multi-Factor Authentication course. Now let's return to the Policies table. Remember that each user or role may be subject to many different policies. We can see from our names and descriptions that we have more than one policy that applies for our contractors, controlling different aspects of their adaptive experience. The hierarchy of this policy table is important. Policies apply from top down, so a policy lower on the table will be overridden by policies above when the same setting applies to the same user or role. For example, we might have multiple MFA policies that apply to different roles. But if any user is a member of multiple roles, then whichever policy covering them that is closest to the top of the policies table is the one that governs any overlapping settings.
To view the CyberArk identity users, log in as the administrator and go to the admin portal. Navigate to Core Services, Users to bring up the users table. You can manage all identity users regardless of their source of truth from the users table. Connected users must log in at least once to display here. CyberArk identity does not copy the entire connected directory into the users table, only the users that have connected to the system. You can filter the users table using the Sets panel. CyberArk Cloud Directory users only reside in the identity database. By default, all the columns display. Customize the table by sorting or hiding columns and adjusting the column width. Select a user to open the user's record. You can manage their account, see their activity, the applications assigned to them, and more. On the Policy Summary tab, you can see all the policies that govern this user. Click the Actions button to see the additional actions available for the user. Be careful deleting users from the CyberArk user table. If deleted, they won't be able to access any provisioned applications. Click the blue arrow to return to the users table.
We'll look at the default roles. First, we'll select Core Services, Roles, to navigate to the Roles table. There are two default roles, Everybody and System Administrator. Let's take a look at the Everybody role. Everyone from your account is automatically added to the Everybody role, whether they are an Adaptive Directory user or they are connected from another source directory. Notice on the Members page, the Add button is inactive. We're not able to modify the Everybody role membership, since everyone is a member. The Everybody role is a great way to assign applications that everyone needs to access. If we look on the Assigned Applications tab, we see the Adaptive User Portal has been assigned to this role. Now let's look at the System Administrator role and its members. The first account created for the tenant is automatically made a member of the System Administrator role with all administrative rights. We've added a couple of other members as well. On the Administrative Rights tab, we see that all rights have been assigned to this role and the Add button is inactive. That's because this role automatically has all possible administrative rights. We'll look at how to create a role to assign more limited administrative rights in another video. We'll navigate to Core Services, Policies, to create a new policy. We'll give the policy a name and description, and leave the policy assignment as all users and devices so that it will apply for all Active Directory users. We could apply the policy to specified roles as we've seen in other videos. Now we'll expand user security policies to select self-service. We'll select Yes to enable account self-service controls. Password reset is enabled by default for our Active Directory Cloud users, but we also want to check Allow for Active Directory users. It's best practice to require multi-factor authentication before allowing a user to change their password. We do that here by selecting a profile. We can view the authentication profile here to see what MFA factors users will have to use to authenticate for the first and second challenge before they can reset their passwords. We discuss authentication profiles and the authentication factors more in other videos. Now we can save our profile. And here on the Policies page, we can select Push Policy to make that policy effective immediately to allow Active Directory users to change their passwords.
The login suffix is the name that appears after the @ symbol. Custom suffixes provide a smoother login experience to the end user by matching the company domain. To create a custom suffix, log in as the administrator and go to the admin portal. Navigate to Settings, Customization, Suffix. The suffix can be any name, but it must be unique across all CyberArk identity tenants. Click Add to create a new suffix. Click Save. To assign the new suffix to a user, navigate to Core Services, Users, and select a user. Change the suffix and click Save. Here's the user's experience.
This setting determines whether or not the Add Apps button shows on the user portal. By default, users do have this option. Let's look at where that setting is in the default policy to change it. We'll navigate to Core Services, Policies, and open the default policy. Now we'll expand the application policies to open the User Setting tab. Here is the option to allow users to add personal apps to their portal. The default setting is Yes. If you don't want users to add their own apps, you'll want to change that to No. Save the policy and make sure the policy is in the right hierarchy on the policy table. If you turn off this setting, note that users may still see the Add Apps button on their portals if you've deployed apps as recommended. We've logged into the admin portal. We'll navigate to Core Services, Roles, and select Add Role. We'll name this role Users Admin. It's always a good idea to put in a short description for each new role. Now let's go to the Members tab. We'll select Add, where we can search for our new user. We'll check the box next to the user's name and add them to this role. To choose the specific admin rights that we want to assign to this role, we'll go to the Administrative Rights tab and select Add. The full list of admin rights is presented. We can go through and pick the specific permissions that users in this role will need. For our example, we'll need admin portal login rights. We want this role to help with user management, so we'll also scroll down to check that box, and then select Add. Let's save our new role for these admin rights.
To use the bulk import feature, log in as the administrator and go to the admin portal. Navigate to Core Services, Users, and select Bulk Import. You can download a template from the Bulk User Import Wizard to prepare the data for import. Fill in as much information as you like, but you must include the login name, display name, and a valid email address. Save it as a CSV file and import it using the Bulk User Import Wizard. Select the CSV and click Next. You can preview up to the first 15 rows of data. Click Next. To fully automate the import, you can select to send an invitation email to the imported users. Specify the email address for the import completion report. Click Confirm. Refresh the browser to see the imported users.
One of the first things you'll want to do is create one or more Adaptive Directory Cloud users and place them in a role with full system admin permissions to prepare for using the Adaptive Connector. Most customers create at least one admin account that is not part of any federated or connected directory so that they can use it for the Adaptive Connector. The Adaptive Connector enables secure communication between your internal Active Directory or LDAP network and Adaptive Identity Services so that those users don't have to be copied into the cloud.
You can use custom URLs to align the CyberArk Identity Portal with your company's naming scheme, making it easier for users to navigate there. To set this up, log in as the administrator and go to the admin menu. Navigate to Settings, Customization, Tenant URLs. Click Add to create a new tenant URL. Type in the new name. It must be unique to all CyberArk Identity tenants. You can use letters, numbers, or a dash, but it must start with a letter. The domain suffix my.adaptive.app will not change. Click Save to create the URL. Set the new URL as the default.
In the admin portal, we'll select Core Services and Roles to navigate to the Roles table. And we'll select Add Role. We'll name our role and provide a description. Now we'll go to the Members tab to add members. When we select Add, a window opens to identify the members we want to include in the role. Note that members can come from our list of users added to Adaptive Directory or from users or groups in an external connected directory source. Members for this role can even come from other roles we've previously defined. We can filter the search results by checking or clearing the search filter and source boxes. We'll clear everything but the groups and Active Directory boxes to find the sales group in our connected Active Directory. Once we find the user, group, or role we want to include, we check the box and select Add. Let's also add an individual user from Adaptive Directory. Now we're ready to save the role. Note that we can add or remove members from the role at any time. To delete members, we open the Members tab, check the box next to the user, group, or role, and select the Actions menu and delete. This only removes those members from this role. It doesn't delete their user records from Adaptive Directory or any connected external directory. If we want to delete the role itself, we go back to the Roles table, check the box next to the name of the role, and from the Actions menu, select Delete. The default policy allows users to add their own apps to the user portal and view or copy their passwords. In this example, we'll create a policy where those options are not allowed for users in our travel agent's role. First, we'll navigate to the Policies table and select Add Policy Set. We'll give our new policy a name and description. Now we're going to only assign this policy to one specified role. We'll select Add to indicate the role. Once we've checked the box next to the role or roles that we want to be governed by this policy, we select Add. Next, we'll open Application Policies to go to the User Settings page. We'll select No for the two options that we want to modify. Since we'll have other policies that control endpoints, authentication, user security, and third-party integrations, we can go ahead and save this policy. We return to the policy table where we see our new policy is automatically added to the top of the hierarchy. Remember that the policy with the highest priority is on top, which means that if any policies have overlapping settings and apply to the same role, the one on top overrides any policies below it.
The CyberArk Identity Platform sends out several system-generated emails. These messages can be customized and localized. To customize the system-generated emails, log in as the administrator and go to the admin portal. Navigate to Settings, Customization, Account Customization. Scroll down to Message Customization. Click Upload to add your company logo to each email. Click the email you'd like to modify. CyberArk Identity supports many different languages. You can customize each message by language. The email message is displayed in the preview window. From here, you can change the subject and the display name. Click Save.
Well, we've created a role called Contractors. This role doesn't yet have any members. We're going to use a slightly modified process of bulk importing users. So we'll go to Core Services, Users, and select Bulk Import. We'll download the spreadsheet template to prepare the data we want to import. We've prepared this spreadsheet with the minimum required information for a few users, including the username and login suffix, their email address, and their display name. Note that we've hidden some of the fields in the spreadsheet template for this example. To import the users directly to a role, we need to enter the exact role name in the roles column. The import will only work properly if we use the same spelling and capitalization as the role name we created in the admin portal. We could add our users to multiple roles by separating the different role names with a comma. Now, on the Bulk Import User page, we'll select the spreadsheet we prepared. The import screens walk you through the process to review the information that is being imported. Now we can confirm the import. To confirm the results of our import, let's open our contractor role and view the members we just imported. Start on the host machine where we'll be installing the connector. We'll log into Idaptive with the user account that we created for the connector. And we'll switch to the admin portal. We'll need to download the connector files first. We'll navigate to Downloads and under the Connectors heading, select Download next to Adaptive Connector. Once the files have finished downloading, we'll open the package. We'll need to extract the files first. Then we'll run the application. The installation wizard opens and we'll select Next to begin the setup. We'll accept the end-user license agreement. Here we can choose to install all of the Adaptive Connector tools, but for this demo we won't include the Mobile Tools package, which could be installed later when needed. We select Install to begin the installation. When the installation is complete, we select Finish. Now the connector configuration wizard opens, so we can immediately register the connector with our Adaptive Identity service. We'll enter the username and password credentials for our connector account and select Next. We'll skip the web proxy configuration for this demo. We could specify alternate user credentials for our Active Directory domain administration, but we're using the current user credentials. On this screen, we're looking to make sure that we see the right Active Directory domain to connect to our Adaptive Identity service. As long as the account being used to install this connector has domain admin permissions to the server, we can use these credentials. Here, we need to give our connector permissions to read the deleted objects container for provisioning and lifecycle workflow. Once we accept, the wizard begins the connections test. We're looking for 4 successes. Next, the wizard begins registering our connector to our Adaptive Identity service. Now the connector setup is complete, so we select Finish. The connector utility opens to the Status tab and indicates that the software is up to date. We can see that the connector is started. Let's open About to see the connector version. Now let's switch to the Connector tab. We can see the update intervals for how frequently the connector updates and how frequently it verifies the Active Directory user account. If Auto Update is enabled, we can schedule parameters for when the auto update runs. We'll close the connector utility now and return to our Adaptive Admin portal. Let's navigate to Settings, Network. Now we can see the new Adaptive connector installed. For best practice, we recommend installing at least 2 connectors for high availability and redundancy. We can see the enabled services and the status. If we need to take any actions, we can check the box next to the connector and select the Actions menu.
New users can be created in the CyberArk Identity Platform Cloud Directory. To add a new user, log in as the administrator and go to the admin portal. Navigate to Core Services and select Users. Click the Add User button. Under Account, type the login name and suffix for the new user. This can match the email address scheme for consistency. Fill in the email address and the display name. The display name will appear in the Users table. You can manually create a password or have the system auto-generate a password. If you choose to auto-generate a password, copy it to provide to the user if necessary. Scrolling down, you can set parameters for the Identity Platform Cloud Directory user. The default options are Require Password Change at Next Login and Send Email Invite for User Portal Support. Remove this checkmark if you're not ready to invite the users to log in. You can fill out additional information if available. The phone number can be used for multi-factor authentication. Click Create User. The new user is added to the Users table. When you're ready to invite the user, select the New User and click the Actions button. Choose Send Email Invite for User Portal Setup.
Let's navigate to Core Services, Policies, and open the default policy. Now we'll open User Security Policies to the Password Settings page. The default password length for this default policy is 8 characters. We can get more information about the default by hovering over this information icon. For our security standards, we want to change that to 10 characters. Let's require at least 1 symbol in our user's passwords here. And let's scroll down to set some additional requirements as well. For example, we don't want our users to be able to include part of their username in their password, so we'll select No here. We also don't want our users to be able to include their display name as part of their password. And finally, let's scroll down to Password Age to require our users to create a new password every 90 days. Now we're ready to save our changes. And when we view the summary for this default policy, we can see the new requirements under Password Settings. On the Roles table, we'll select Add Role and name our role Travel Teams. Now we'll open the Members tab. When we select Add, the search window opens. We'll narrow down the search filters so we only see other roles from the Cloud directory. Remember that this search filter is case sensitive. Let's first add our Sales role. We also want to add our Professional Services role. Notice that we didn't filter this time, so we get more results. But here's the role we want to add. Remember that this role may contain both Active Directory users and Cloud users. When we select Add, now we can see the two child roles in this parent role. This will make it easy to assign policies to users in those roles. We'll navigate to the Users table and select the user we want to view. Then we select the policy summary. Notice that different policies are controlling the different settings based on this user's role membership and the way that we've applied our policies. When we aren't getting expected results for a user's experience, this table can help us pinpoint whether we've got conflicting policies in the wrong order on the Policies table, or if a policy does or doesn't include a specific setting that applies for this.
Hi everyone. In this short video, we are going to look at the approach, how DPA can be leveraged upon to connect to the database using the zero standing privileges approach. So what I did as my first step, I have spin off a database. So I'm using a Postgres database, leveraging upon AWS RDS service. So we will try to connect to this Postgres database using the zero standing approach. So what we have to do in DPA, we have to leverage upon one of the strong account. The strong account for database is stored in the privilege cloud. So this is what my strong account is. So here, if I click on details, so you will be able to see my strong account details are my username is Postgres, my address, and so on and so on. So here, what we will do, we will be using pgadmin. So pgadmin is one of the most commonly used tool. So we are going to register a new server. So here, I'm gonna say the server name as DPA zero standing DB access. So we will click on connection. In connection, I'm gonna go to the connection guidance. So we are going to select databases, PostgreSQL. I'm going to copy my host name. So after that, in the username, so we are going to come here. So here it is talking about the target user. This user is an optional parameter. So we have to key in this user only for the vaulted account. So currently we are not going to use a vaulted account. So we are going to leave it blank. So here in the FKDN, so we have to copy the database endpoint. So I'm going to copy this entire string. So let's paste it here. So here you can see there are two and. So I'm going to remove one of them. Then you have to provide your password. It's the same password your user is using to authenticate to CyberArk identity. I'm going to provide it the password. In the parameter, I'm going to increase the connection timer to 1000 seconds. So then what I'll do, we'll click on save button. It takes around 10 to 15 seconds to connect to the database. So it took around 15 to 20 seconds. So here we can see connection has been established successfully. So you can go to the Postgres, you can check the dashboard. So what we are going to do, we are going to run a new query. So let's see. So what's our user details are, which got connected to the database. So I'm going to run a select current user. Going to execute this query. So here you can see my current user is Rajneesh Garg and there is a random string. So this user got created on the fly. And after a couple of hours, so this user will be automatically removed. And then let's try to run another query. Let's get a count from PG user. So here the count is 40. So this is how the end user experience is gonna look like. So what I'll do, I'll disconnect from the server. As a next step, we will go to the audit and we will see whether all the audit events got captured. So I'm gonna disconnect and then let's go to the audited page. We are gonna click on the 9 dots. We're gonna go to the audit service. So it takes a couple of seconds for the audit to get appeared. So I'll pause this video and we will come back after a couple of seconds. It took around 40 to 50 seconds for all the audit events to get appeared. So here you can see our last connection to database, it happened via the just in time. So what I noticed, so whenever you are using a PG admin tool, it tried to open quite a number of connections. So this is the reason you see there are few connections got established. So, but we are gonna click on this 1 minute 18 second session. So here you can see the target DB. So you can see the user on target. So this is the user got created on the fly. If I click on commands, so you will be able to see, hey, we executed this command and we executed this specific command as well. So that's pretty much about this specific demo for DPA for just-in-time access to the target data. Go into my Microsoft Apps dashboard. So I have logged in to my Microsoft Apps. So here you see I have logged in as one of the user called aws@ssolutionsdemo.com. To access AWS IAM Identity Center, what I have to do, I have to simply click on this tile. I will get redirected to AWS IAM Identity Center. So that's how this entire access is gonna be granted. So here you see, I have standing access across like 5 different accounts. And if you open any of the account, you can see I have a wide range of access to the permission set. The biggest drawback of leveraging upon standing access is if somebody steals my credentials, what's going to happen? They can do a huge amount of damage to my cloud environment. The second thing is, so what about if somebody steals a session cookie? So stealing a session cookie means attacker will have an access to all these different AWS accounts with all these different permission sets. So this is how the standing access user experience is going to look like. So now for the second case, so once we introduce a zero standing privileges approach, so let's see how does the end user experience is going to look like. Again, in this particular demonstration also, we will be looking at Microsoft Azure AD or Entra ID as our IDP. So now, so what I have done, so I'm gonna go to a different browser. So here also, so I have logged into Microsoft Apps. So here you will notice I'm using a different user altogether. So this user, for this particular user, we are leveraging upon the zero standing privileges approach, AWS 2. So here also I'm gonna click on this AWS IAM Identity Center tile. Again, it is asking me to re-authenticate. So here you will see I have redirected to AWS IAM Identity Center. Here you see by default, this particular user has zero permissions. Even if attacker steal the user's credential, even if attacker steal the session key, they will not be able to do much damage. But the point comes how, as a user, I can gain the privileges to do my job. So I'm going to the CyberArk identity portal. On the identity portal, I'm going to log in using my Active Directory credentials. So I'm gonna sign in again. You should be protecting the CyberArk console using MFA. And here you see one of the tile called AWS IAM Identity Center. I'm gonna click on this particular tile. So behind the scenes, CyberArk Secure Web Session layer is gonna be enabled. So it will help us to do the step recording and session protection. I'm gonna say, hey, I'm okay with the session being monitored. Click on continue button. So once I click on continue button, it takes a couple of seconds for users to get redirected to another web page. So that web page is primarily meant to get all the authorized permissions. So here being redirected to the AWS permission set for AWS IAM Identity Center. So you can see as a user, I'm authorized to elevate my permissions on the fly. So this one, we call it a daily access. So if somebody needs an access for any other permissions, so which is not made available, so they can go through a request access workflow. For this particular demonstration, we will say, hey, as a user, I need an access to this particular account, but I wanna do my job just as a billing permission set only. So I'm gonna click on a connect button. So behind the scenes, what CyberArk Secure Cloud Access is going to do, it is going to elevate the user permission. It takes like a couple of seconds to elevate the user permission. So let's wait for a few seconds. So here you see, so I've been redirected to my AWS IAM Identity Center tile again. So I have been added to this particular test account for this billing permission set only. So this is how does the zero standing privileges user experience is gonna look like, and it can really help you to reduce the risk tremendously.